we have a major development on the stadium side for the Cleveland Browns. It's a little bit, I won't say boring, but I guess boring is probably the best way to put it, to be honest with you. But I do think it's important to fill you guys in on what's going on because despite it being boring, I'm going to do my absolute best to simplify it in a way where maybe you can comprehend it a little bit easier, and then you're the smartest person in your friend group when people talk about the stadium, and you go, well, actually, here's what's really going on. So let's start with what's going on in Columbus because the lawmakers convened and they did one of two things. One, they submitted a proposal for the budget, which is going to be approved sometime towards the end of June. And that proposal included $600 million in bonds for a domed stadium in Brook Park, which is good news for the Haslam group because this has support from Columbus to put money, taxpayer money, into a dome stadium outside of Cleveland. Now, Governor Mike DeWine, he had his proposal cut, which was a double tax on current gaming in Ohio. And as someone who likes to gamble, I'm not too upset about this part right here. So I know that the easy solution to finding more money is always just like increase taxes. And I'm not here to do a political debate with anyone about it, but I think it's always a nice thing when politicians find a way to find money that it just doesn't result in just increasing more taxes. So with this being said, if you go back to a few months ago when the Browns put out their latest renderings, and they put out so many it's kind of hard to keep up with, in those renderings, they were estimating a cost of $3.2 billion. They themselves were willing to pay $2 billion of that $3.4 billion. So the Browns were seeking $1.2 billion in bonds from the state, the city, the county, some type of collection and combination. Well, they're about to get $600 million, which they may not get all $1.2 billion, but they're going to get a lot of it. And this, in my eyes, is a huge step forward to a shovel going in the ground in Brook Park to begin construction on a new Cleveland Browns stadium. Now, Haslam was in Florida this past week for the NFL owners meeting, and he talked about this, and he said that if this gets done, I'm going to read it verbatim, it'll come down to whether Ohio lawmakers approve this $600 million. If so, expect shovels to be in the ground as early as not even this time next year, but like January or February of 2026. Now, not a construction guy, but digging into the ground in the winter seems difficult. So that might be a little bit metaphorical, but nevertheless, any construction guys, feel free to chime in. If this gets done at the end of June and this gets approved by the budget or by the lawmakers in the budget for the upcoming spending spree from the federal government to the state government, then we are looking at a new stadium in Brook Park here sooner rather than later. Now, we're going to get to more on this in just a second, including what Haslam called Plan B if this doesn't get approved when they reconvene for a budget meeting in June. What does that look like? Well, we're going to talk about that next. But first things first, I do want to fill you guys in on a great deal going on over at Fanatics. It's not $600 million. It's actually way less than that. And it's the Browns draft hat, which I think this guitar emblem on the side is pretty awesome. So I put this link for you all in the comment section, chatsports.com/CLE draft. So if you want to get some Browns draft gear before day one kicks off, which is just 3 weeks away and change, chatsports.com/CLE draft. Now, it's important to remember the Cleveland side of the equation because Mayor Bibb of Cleveland, remember, sued the Browns for violation of the Modell Law. So if we don't get, well, I say we, by we I mean the Browns, if the Browns don't get $600 million in bonds from the folks down in Columbus, Haslam said Plan B will turn to renovating the current stadium. It's pretty much been shot down whether or not the Browns could tear down the current stadium and build a new one in that same spot. That is not going to happen. So it's either one of two options. New stadium in Brook Park, renovated stadium at its current location. And I don't think anyone, well, I shouldn't say anyone, because I'm sure there's lots of people who do want that option. I personally don't. But I understand why season ticket holders, because they're the ones that have to pay for extremely expensive seat licenses at the new stadium, or local businesses around the stadium don't want the Browns to pick up and move to Brook Park. So those folks out there, I understand your frustrations, and I'm not going to try and convince you to come to my side. I'm not in your shoes, so it does not impact me, but I understand how you would be upset about this. And I'm looking at it through the lens of what is best for the Cleveland Browns. And personally, I think it is best for the team to get a dome stadium in Brook Park. But going back to Mayor Bibb, because he's suing the Browns for violating the evil Art Modell law, which here's what it says. I'll let you guys kind of read it to yourself because it's got a lot of just mumbo jumbo and politic talk. But there are two key parts I want to highlight that I will read to you. So when talking about how to avoid violating the Art Modell law, it says either A, enters into an agreement with the political subdivision permitting the team to play most of its home games elsewhere. They are not getting permission from the political subdivision to do that. Or B, gives the political subdivision in which the facility is located not less than 6 months advance notice of the owner's intention to cease playing most of its home games at the facility, and during the 6 months after such notice, gives the political subdivision or any individual or group of individuals who reside in the area the opportunity to purchase the team. I've said this before, but I'll say it again, and this might be really dumb. Why don't the Browns just do that? Why don't they give someone in the area the opportunity to purchase the team for $5 billion? I don't think they're going to find any buyers. So the city would have 6 months, right? Did I read that correctly? To find someone in the area to purchase the team. If the Browns comply with that part right there, and the city can't find a buyer, then the Browns are kind of off the hook here. Now, if the city does find a buyer, which I don't know many people in the area that's got $5 billion ready to whip up and buy the team, because it's not like Jeff Bezos can come in there, right? It says in the area. So if the city then goes outside of the area to find a buyer to keep them at the lakefront, the Browns can sue the city for violating their own law. Now, I don't think that's ever going to happen, like in terms of getting to the stage of, all right, fine, you guys have 6 months to find a buyer, because I don't think the Jimmy Haslam group wants to go down that rabbit hole. But it doesn't seem like the worst idea if this law ends up being applied to the Browns and it gets in the way of them moving, to then comply with the law. Give them 6 months. See what they can do. They're not going to find anyone. Am I missing a $5 billionaire in the Cleveland area? Sherwin-Williams got that money? I don't think so. So, not a bad idea. Well, maybe a bad idea, but in my mind right now, not the worst idea. So we'll kind of wrap up with this. Where do you want the Browns to play? Is it where they currently play, in Brook Park? I have made a complete 180. I've said this before on the channel. I was team no dome, lakefront. It's a great flyover scenery, and it's awesome to have the stadium in the city. And all that went out the window when the Saints came to Cleveland in December in -5 degrees and beat the Browns to knock them out of the playoffs. If you can't beat New Orleans at home in December outdoors, why do we believe that this is some kind of advantage for Cleveland? It's not. They're losing, and we're all cold. If you're going to lose, at least be comfortable. So I switched over literally the moment the Saints beat the Browns. And I was like, this is pointless. It'd be one thing if the Browns kept their playoff hopes alive because they used the cold weather to their advantage because they are more accustomed to it than New Orleans. But a bunch of guys who hang out in the swamp that practice indoors came to Cleveland and beat the crap out of them. It was not like if the score was close, but the game never felt close. All right, let's wrap up the video by picking a card. Which card do you want to go with, Mr. Reed Bartkus?
Let's go with Jack of Spades.
Mm-hmm. All right, you said Jack of Spades? I'm going to go with the audible. Give me the 10 of diamonds. 10 of hearts. That's tough. That is tough. All right, that's going to do it for us on today's episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Click that like button on your way out, and I'll see everyone next time.